And it should be noted, too, the ages of both of these presidents.
True.
Donald Trump, 78 years old, now becomes the oldest president elected at age 78 and will serve into his 80s as well as Joe Biden, who is now 82 years old, just having had his birthday in November. And he will now join what is now Special Air Mission 46. It's only called Marine One when the President of the United States is on it for that final flyover of our majestic United States Capitol to see those final moments. And while there has been much accomplished in the Biden administration, even though the American people did not view that so, there were 17 million jobs created, certainly digging the country out of massive inflation that some say he helped with some of his big spending programs. There is much that those within the Biden circle hope that the long lens of history will show that he has achieved more than people give him credit for.
In one of his last interviews, Nora, he was saying he should have done a better job on messaging, letting people know all of the things that he had done and that he accomplished.
Every president says that. It's a kind of standard button they push. And, you know, some of that might be true if every voter had metaphysical certainty about the things done in your White House. But also it's very true in American politics and very hard that when the economy is against you, you can't talk your way around that.
And there was always two-thirds of the country thought we were heading in the wrong direction. But to Gail's point, too, I do think that the Biden administration suffered from an ability to communicate their achievements, not only from the principal level, but also from the staff level.
So what will he do now? We hear he's going to California. What will he do now?
Delaware has always been home for former President Biden, and he will return to Delaware. Loves Rehoboth Beach. It's a place where he made that decision to exit the presidential race. He'll also spend time in Wilmington, I'm told. He has a lot of connections in Philadelphia nearby. Family lives in the Philadelphia area. So he'll be in and around Delaware and Philadelphia, and will surely make his way from time to time back to Washington, D.C. What a political life for President Biden. And people close to both President Trump and President Biden have told me that these two men share a lot more in common than might be fully understood. They have both been on the public stage since the 1970s. They have been through ups and downs. They are at their core political survivors. And that led, I'm told, to a relatively friendly Oval Office meeting when they met in private. There's an understanding that they have both endured, even if they both disagree with each other.
And that we're just witnessing as the former Vice President Kamala Harris's motorcade just left, and we are already getting a sense of how things are changing here in Washington and around the world. Margaret Brennan, I know you have some new reporting.
Sure, and a historic departure for the first female vice president of the United States, Nora. In terms of what's changing, we're already seeing our Camila Montoya Galvez is confirming through Homeland Security officials that all of the appointments that had been scheduled for interviews for asylum seekers, those seeking to enter the United States legally through this app that was created by the Biden administration to slow the crowds at the border and get them in through appointments called CBP1. That's already been just totally taken offline. So 30,000 appointments that had been scheduled for migrants to go through and have it actual legal process gone already. We are seeing changes in these executive orders that could actually create some questions about how does one legally enter if legal pathways are being shut down. This is something, Nora, that came up at the debate, if you remember, that you and I had with the vice presidential candidates. A campaign promise, once again, to do away with some of these things that the Biden administration put in place to deal with what has been a historic hemisphere-wide migration crisis with a crush of humanity unseen since World War II.
So, Margaret, are you saying people that want to enter the country legally can now have lost an avenue to do that? Is that what you're saying? Effective now?
Well, in the view of the Trump administration, they believe that the Biden administration's interpretation of the law was not legal, but they had created this pathway under their interpretation of regulations.
Yes, Senator Blunt.
Well, the traditional avenue for asylum was to go to any American embassy, American consulate, ask for asylum there, This idea that you can come to the border, say, I qualify for asylum and get in is very new. And there's a reason that we're walking away from that. It doesn't work. There's also a reason that in every European country with their border problems, that's been a huge issue in every election now for a decade. And we have to do something differently than we're doing. What we're doing is not working.
Great point in terms of not just the hemisphere-wide migration crisis, but it's really worldwide. You see it through Middle East, through Africa, moving into Europe. But in terms of the processing in this day and age, the poverty that exists for some people prevents traveling to the capital to go to an embassy. Their workaround was create that app on your phone.
Well, yeah, but living in a
poorest.
poor or dangerous country is not a reason for asylum. You have to personally have some unique fear. People all over the world will come to the United States if there's a way to get here for good reason, but you can't let we're the most open country in the world on asylum, and we have made a joke out of the asylum process by what we've been doing at the border.
And that would need to change through law, or what was just announced in executive order by Donald Trump?
It's a full conversation to have. Yes, it's a full conversation to have about the process and failures of the immigration system that have largely been the product of the United States Congress's failure to get something done for decades, even though multiple presidents, Republican and Democrat, have tried valiantly to do that indeed. And now we see the helicopter, known as Marine One, and the president is in it, is now Special Air Mission 47 departing. Special Mission 46 departing the east front of the Capitol as Joe Biden leaves Washington for the final time, ending a half-century career as a public servant. I want to bring in Scott McFarlane, who's there. Scott?
Standing in the footprint of this helicopter about to take off on the east front of the Capitol, it really is quite a closing chapter to the peaceful transfer of power. It was 4 years ago where the rioters first fought with police in this very spot, disrupting the peaceful transfer of power in 2021. It has been secured here today with President-elect Trump, now President Trump, side by side with President Biden. Watching President Biden board the helicopter for this aerial liftoff, this one-of-a-kind American image and moment on the east front of the Capitol. If you can still hear me, there are police and fire EMS workers surrounding this area taking pictures on their phones. And it feels something akin to a severe thunderstorm or small tornado in wind strength. The metaphor of a change in Washington.
I can't remember the year that I was there in that exact same position. And just to think about it. Just to think about how President Biden feels at this moment.
That's what I was wondering, Laura. And I wonder, do we know who else is on the helicopter, if anybody? Who else is on it with him? Do we know?
Dr. Biden.
He's about to pass by the old home place, too.
Yeah, besides Jill and Joe Biden, do we know who else could possibly be on that chopper? Because normally it's not just the two of them.
He's going to look down at his old house.
Yeah. I wonder what he's feeling and thinking, too, at this moment.
To fly down the Washington Mall, past the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, the White House, and then on to Andrews Air Force Base, where I imagine he'll be greeted by other members of his family for that trip out to California and a vacation for the 82-year-old president.